honestly, this is very similar to the style of thing that they were approaching Prop 8 with. They were going with the current law of the land and saying, we're going to establish our religious freedom.
Also a big difference
This is the same move.
Hey there YouTube, I'm Forrest, Latter-day Skeptic. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the Mormon Church's statement regarding the proposed Respect for Marriage Act. No matter what church apologists say, this is a big deal. Hang around to the end of the video and I'll explain why. Also, please like and subscribe. Every subscription helps a ton, especially for a small channel like mine. It's no mystery to anyone that the Mormon Church has stood firmly against legislation that endorses gay marriage. This is because they believe it's a moral issue, and that endorsing legislation like this would degrade the institution of marriage.
As a church, we do not get involved in supporting candidates or political parties. But when there are moral issues, the First Presidency has always felt that it was important for our members to stand up and support those that are significant to the gospel of Jesus Christ and the restored church. And so we, without concern, go to the membership of the church after the call of the First Presidency to ask you to give your best to this most significant effort to support in every way possible the sacred institution of marriage as we know it to be.
But in typical Mormon fashion, the church has completely flipped on this position. The doctrine of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints related to marriage between a man and a woman is well known and will remain unchanged. We are grateful for the continuing efforts of those who work to ensure the Respect for Marriage Act includes appropriate religious freedom protections while respecting the law and preserving the rights of our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. We believe this approach is the way forward, as we work together to preserve the principles and practices of religious freedom, together with the rights of LGBTQ individuals. Much can be accomplished to heal relationships and foster greater understanding. This flip is clear to everyone, except for one group. Just to have a little bit of fun, I'm going to take a play out of Ahmad Corbett's playbook and create an acronym for this group.
As I speak of this entity, I will give it its own initials.
I think I've come up with just the right acronym for these social media YouTuber apologists. Pop Mormon Saints, or PMS for short. And in typical PMS fashion, PMS is forcing a square peg into a round hole. They're trying to claim that this statement is in line with historical church precedents, including its support for Prop 8.
Honestly, this is very similar to the style of thing that they were approaching Prop 8 with. They were going with the current law of the land and saying, we're going to establish our religious freedom.
Also a big difference
This is the same move.
The church has rightfully been speaking often about the importance of religious liberty and rallying support to protect itself from the government. If you look closely, you will see that the statement by the church was released on November 15th, which was exactly one day after the U.S. senators added significant religious freedom protections to this bill.
Becoming a major, major problem for freedom of religion. And so they're looking down the road and saying, here is the bigger hill that we have got to put our banner down here in, and that's the hill we're going to die on. And we're going to concede in a pluralistic society that the laws of the land are that they permit same-sex marriage.
I completely agree that this was a strategic play by the church to codify into law protections that would defend against discrimination lawsuits, especially to defend institutions like BYU, where you aren't allowed to be gay without risking your enrollment and even your scholarships. Yes, that's a true story. At BYU, if you're gay, you can't even hold hands or date members of the same sex without breaking the honor code. But that's not the part I want to focus on. Pop Mormon Saints aren't even recognizing the most significant part of this statement. The church just called gay marriage a right for LGBT people. That is the most significant part about this statement, and it's a big deal. The Mormon Church now believes that gay marriage is a right for LGBT people.
The gays and lesbians are saying, look, we too are a persecuted group. We too deserve our rights under the law.
But what I'm saying, this isn't because it's directed at another group. It's for the protection of a 5,000-year history of marriage being between a man and a woman.
A statement from the LDS Church expressed support for both protecting religious freedom and respecting LGBTQ rights under the law.
I personally loved this statement by the Mormon Church because now we can hold members of the church to this standard. If Mormons are against gay marriage, then I urge you to direct them to the guidance of their leaders. Their leadership believes that gay marriage is a right that should be legalized for all of their gay brothers and sisters. I also have another reason why I loved this statement so much. It's another perfect example of how activism works in the church. Ahmad Corbett, a leader in the Mormon Church, recently gave a talk chastising activism towards the church. He then completely contradicted himself when he highlighted the changes that have been made in the church at the same time that racial activism was happening throughout the country.
The Lord has brought about significant change in his church through appropriate means. Without fanfare, some have encouraged the removal of folklore about people of African descent from among the literature of the kingdom. More recently, an appropriate and important effort was made to recognize the contributions of great Black pioneers, including motion pictures and the dedication of statues and memorials. President M. Russell Ballard, Elder D. Todd Christofferson, and Brother Mauli Bonner, and others all attended this historic event.
Does anyone really think that racial activism in the United States didn't contribute to these changes? We now have another beautiful example of how activism towards the church does affect changes in the church. We ask that you do all you can to support the proposed constitutional amendment by donating your means and time to assure that marriage in California is legally defined as being between a man and a woman. Our best efforts are required to preserve the sacred institution of marriage.
For the second day in a row, flags were waved, signs were written, and students gathered on BYU's campus to protest the sudden clarification to again make homosexual acts against the Honor Code.
As we work to preserve the principles and practices of religious freedom together with the rights of LGBTQ individuals, much can be accomplished to heal relationships and foster greater understanding. The Mormon Church has obviously been feeling the pressure of gay activism, and this pressure has caused this big step for the Mormon Church. But more importantly, this is a big step for members of the church. They must now recognize that legalization of gay marriage is a right, otherwise they're at odds with their leadership.
Say what you want to about boomers, Carden, but they understand the principle of obedience. That's something I think our generation struggles with a little bit more. But
I'm really excited about this statement from the church, and I think it's going to do a lot to heal the hurt relationship between the church and the gay community. I also think it'll do a lot to help the members of the church reconcile their growing support for the legalization of gay marriage with their leadership, who in the past had taken the opposite position on gay marriage. That's all I've got. I'm Forrest, Latter-day Skeptic. Please like and subscribe.